Hi, this is Kimberly from Are You Awakening, and I am here to talk to you today about drugs. Drugs. I'm talking about all those dangerous things like marijuana and magic mushrooms and DMT and including the man-made ones like LSD and MDMA and all of those good things that we take to alter our minds. And if you're waiting for me to tell you if they're good or bad, you can turn off the video now, because you know I'm not going to do that, because you're creating your reality. So that's up to you whether you're going to judge them as good or bad. What I will do for you is give you some pointers so that you can ask yourself what your beliefs are about them and whether you think that you are using them in a manner that serves you versus hurts you. That I will do. And so let's divide these up into two categories: the man-made ones such as LSD and MDMA, and those that Mother Earth provides for you in as natural a state as possible, like marijuana and the mushrooms and DMT. And I do divide them up because I definitely think that they were created for different purposes. So in my opinion, it's only my opinion, and you don't have to agree with it, but in my opinion, those that are man-made were made for you to go on a trip, meaning it's an escape. It's something to get away from your natural state and to feel something differently for a while. Often socially oriented, where you're with your friends, you have a trip, you have a bender, whatever that would be, you come out of it, and then you go back to your normal life. And then there's the category of those that Mother Nature has made for us, like marijuana that grows naturally, and mushrooms that grow naturally, and DMT or San Pedro or all those other things that you could find in your garden. And in my opinion, those are substances that are more regularly used to help expand one's consciousness, meaning that they're not taken as an escape as much as helping us to release the tension on our mind and allow us a little bit of latitude in how we think. And so it's really a matter of what does that substance do for you when you take it, and why are you taking it? Now, all of those substances, whether they be man-made or grown on earth, can be teachers for you if you want them to be, right? So you can choose to have an experience that you're going to grow from and learn from, even if it's just a 3-day knockout with your friends. All right, you can still come out of that with the intention of learning something. Yet I would recommend that if you do that, you set that intention before you take anything. All right, and I'm not even going to lie about this. I'm not going to tell you that drugs are good or bad, but I want you to make sure that no matter what you're doing, that you're in a safe place. Okay, that was my public service announcement. Now, back to drugs. So there's a lot of programming in our society about drugs. There were a lot of companies and corporations that didn't want them out there, because then you would stop smoking and you would stop drinking, and you might choose another option for altering your state that wasn't as profitable, right? So there's a lot of guilt that's shot out there about stoners, for instance. Dude, yeah. Stoners, I mean, I remember in high school, there were some, and they were just like the mellowest guys. Who cares if they got good grades or not? They didn't care. They seemed happy. Their parents seemed happy. Everybody seemed happy. But, the prevailing idea about stoners is that they're losers and that they're going to end up no good. They're going to end up like on welfare or it's a gateway drug, and then they're, heroin addicts in the street. All of those things were pounded into our minds about drugs, okay? Now, you want to go into an esoteric view of it, well, dark versus light and all that good stuff. They are assistants or teachers in expanding your consciousness. And for someone who wants to control you, that was not a good thing, because then you became dangerous in the fact that you recognize your own power. All right, so there's a little esoteric seedling I can plant for you about why these teachers were frowned upon in the past. Now, how do you know how you feel about what you're taking? Well, I just want you to ask yourself a couple things, all right? You can ask yourself, are you feeling any guilt about what you're doing? And if you do, why? Is it programming? Or do you really feel like you might have an issue with taking a specific substance over and over? First of all, what kind of guilt do you feel if you take any? Do you feel lazy? Do you feel like a stoner? Do you feel like you're taking it for an escape? And here's the second part of that. How you can perhaps tell if you're taking a substance too often, or if you're using it for a reason that doesn't serve you, is how are you when you go out in the field? Now, when I say the field, I mean not locked up in your apartment with a beer in your hand and some drugs, but when you go out and you have to interact with people, like talk to them and deal with them. For instance, like you're at an airport and you have to deal with all sorts of smelly, noisy, obnoxious people. How do you treat them? Do you treat them in an expansive manner based on what you've learned when you were in that altered state? Has it made you a better person? Because if it has, well, then perhaps you can consider that your altered states are assisting you in your ascension. And I'll add one more thing to that. I truly believe that we will outgrow any of these substances once we recognize what they feel like, right? So as you ascend and as your consciousness expands, you are going to have a bigger, broader perspective about the world. And that's generally what substances will do for you. They'll give you a greater view, a higher vista, further up on the mountain to look at things and say, oh my gosh, I totally get that, right? Okay, so you are kind of getting a little bit of a glimpse of where you're going to be when your consciousness expands a little more. And after a while, you'll be able to get there. You'll recognize that frequency and you'll be able to get there without the substance. Okay? So knowing that, or at least believing that that can happen, can also help you make sense of what you're doing and why you're taking these substances. Yeah. So no right or wrong, I'm not going to tell you that. I will tell you to be safe. I will tell you to be responsible and hold yourself fully 100% accountable for everything that you do in any state that you're in, right? Because if you're creating your reality and you send some shit out, guess where it's coming back to? You. You decide what works for you. You look at yourself and ask yourself if you're a better person by expanding your consciousness using such substances. All right? Now you notice I didn't include alcohol in there, and I didn't include alcohol in there because in my opinion it is a depressant and it lowers your frequency. Okay? So I don't necessarily believe that alcohol assists in the ascension. It tastes great during dinner, don't get me wrong, right? But if you're going to use it to expand your consciousness, then I would recommend that you use great care, because it's very easy to overdo it, and then your frequency plummets down and you're responsible for bringing it back up. All right, 100% accountability. You're wearing your big boy pants. All right, you guys, I want you to know that I love you, and always, always be yourself all of the time. Love. All those substances that alter your mind. I'm talking about marijuana, reefer madness,